Start with roll call. Secretary?
All right, Michael Aldinger.
Here.
Mike Anderson. William Barr. Jim Byrne. Ruth Kangaraja. Here. Ralph Cavello.
Here.
Sarah Donenberg. Adam Ferrone. Pat Gordon. Hillary Gustav. Here. Mark Cannon.
Here.
Is it Cannon?
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, I'll put you in the right place. Nicholas Hine. Hubert Hines. Andrew Perisic.
Here.
Gavin Kieran. John King.
Here.
Peter Corey.
Here.
Andrew Kantz. Matthew Lockman. Daniel Allard. Sean Leonard.
Here.
Sam Lohner.
Here.
Benjamin Lombard. Stephen Lucas.
Here.
Nick Mance.
Here.
Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Morrell. Jose Munn.
Here.
Christopher Knott.
Here.
Ellie Opelberg. Joanne Olson.
Here.
Louis Horazio.
Here.
Luke Pierce. Greg Plum.
Here.
Bryant Poland.
Here.
Holly Potter. Megan Quinn. Christian Hyland. Valerie Russell.
Present.
Amy Sanders. Carolyn Severi. Matt Sheroff.
Here.
Philip Slusser.
Here.
Richard Tremansky.
Here.
Colleen Smith. Matthew Smith.
Here.
Michael Smith. Ricardo Torres.
Present.
Ian Vickery.
Here.
Michael Wallace.
Here.
Cindy Wang. Sorry, I pronounced that wrong. Nicole Zinni. Here.
Okay, moving on. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any objections to the agenda? Just a couple of notes under special presentations. We also have Bonnie, and last name, from the Center for Alternatives and Community Justice to accompany Jason and Josefa under special presentations. So an extension of to 30 minutes for that portion. Is what Mr. Gravello would like. Any objections to the agenda with that change?
Sorry, what was that change?
Yeah, under item number 6, special presentations, the first bullet says Jason to the Center for Alternatives and Community Justice. Josefa will accompany him. That's really pertaining to Resolution 19 under new business. But Bonnie will be accompanying them as well. So instead of 15 minutes, it'll be 30 minutes. We can change that if you'd like. Do you want to do 20 minutes?
Yeah, and if they need more time,
Okay, great. 20 minutes, we can extend time as we need. So with that said, any objections to the agenda? Okay, the agenda is adopted. Moving on to adoption of the past general meeting minutes. You should have received those via email. Any objections to those? Any changes? Okay, minutes adopted. Item number 4, open student forum. Are there any students here to address the assembly? No, okay. Moving on, item 5, report by the president. Mr. Cairns.
I finally figured that out. This week marks the end of some of the terms through the Assemblyman as well as some of the executive as well. This week we will begin the process of looking at filling 4 of the assembly seats for students going abroad. Jim Byrne, Carolyn Severi, Will Barr, Matt Sheroff. Well, Matt Sheroff's the treasurer, but Hillary Gupta will all be heading abroad. I'd just like to personally to start off by thanking them for the service that they've had. Specifically, Matt to my left, who's been involved with USG, UPUA since the time he's gotten here. We kind of got our start together. He's helped us out a lot doing the budgets, treasury, and it's made my job a little bit easier, so I appreciate that a lot, Matt. Hillary, I appreciate everything you did as well. She's been here since the beginning. UPUA started, one of the only 3-year members And you've really done a great job programming over the past 2 years, and really overall the past 2 years. We thank you for your service. Jim Byrne, Jim, there you are. Jim, I just want to thank you as well. You helped me out a lot even before this year, whether with campaigns or whatever, and I appreciate that a lot, my friend. Is Carolyn here? No, we'll just move on. Will, it's great to know you this year. You really helped out with the facilities, and we do appreciate that as well. And where there you go. So thank you very much. So that is that for. We also Lou Razzio. Also, this might be his. This is the last meeting as far as executive. He's thinking about joining the assembly. So Lou, I thank you also for putting the time in to get the business started and getting it on track. So we can transition well to the future. That being said, that we do have a strong core coming back, and I expect a whole lot moving into next semester. This year we've already been able to accomplish a lot of the goals that we've set out. I know personally that some of the things that I really want to see and I'd be happy with is if we could have the Tenant Landlord Mediation program up running, the online book swap up, and legal services. And Tenant Landlord, we're going to vote on today. It should be up and running by the spring semester. Online book swaps up, legal services. It's making a lot of progress. It'll be up in the spring semester. So I think we're well on our way to accomplishing a lot of the goals that we have set out. We also have a lot of other things that are ongoing that I'm pretty proud of as well. The study abroad dispute panel, I kind of slashed that name a little bit, but we'll just call it that for today. I think that's definitely something that's worthwhile, and it could be something that really has an impact on lives of students, especially those going abroad. We had Service Nation, we had the idea of the quarterly, so we have some good ideas out there that have really, we have the ideas, and I think it's important that we build upon that. And also, as we look to this being the final meeting this semester, we do have quite a budget, so I'll just end with this. We have quite an agenda. Over Christmas break, you have a few weeks, get refreshed. I know over Thanksgiving break, a lot of you had a time to just kind of sit back and kind of step away from this a little bit, but come up with new ideas, come out fresh, come out with things to do. We've accomplished a lot of things we set out, but that doesn't mean it stops there. I think that this is just the beginning of what we can accomplish, and we've already been able to tackle some larger projects of which I don't think we would have been able to accomplish in the past couple of years. But that doesn't mean that we stop there. We just need to continue on this path of really accomplishing concrete goals. So when you do come back and over break, especially if you're chair, I ask that you kind of come back with 2 or 3 goals that you want to set out specifically for the spring semester. Talk to your committees in these last weeks and over break, take it upon yourselves to really take the lead on this. Production next semester is up to you, and I ask that everybody comes back strong. Thanks.
Questions? Any questions? No? Okay. Moving on to item number 6, special presentations. So first we have UQA Legal Affairs. We have Jason and Bonnie and Usefa. This is for 20 minutes, so you guys can grab that mic there. Or come up here. Yeah, this is good too. Probably better. You can take this off the stand right here. So.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Kleinwex. I'm the Town Affairs Director of Legal Affairs. That's Josefa Munn, Director of Legal Affairs. We're here to present the Tenant Landlord Mediation Program that we've been working on for probably the better half of a year. So basically, we're going to go over a general overview. Josefa's going to throw in a couple of details, and then we're going to have Bonnie speak. Bonnie Milmore is the Executive Director of the CACJ, which is the Center for Alternatives and Community Justice. They are the mediation program that's going to be handling all our cases that we send. So basically, the program is designed to give tenants in the borough a no-cost alternative to taking their cases to court when they have a dispute with their landlords. These cases can range from security deposit disputes, damages that they're unfairly charged with, things of that nature. And short of going out and hiring a lawyer, there's no real outlet for them to settle these disputes. And obviously it benefits students because how many of us have the resources to actually pay for a lawyer trying to get a $300 security deposit back? So The need is definitely there. When we approached Gail Hurley with this over the summer, she made us do our research, find out how many cases were out there each year. What we came up with is we have 20 cases per semester that come into our office of legal affairs seeking help with landlord disputes. Now, Loretta Das, whose office usually handles this kind of stuff, she receives about 200 cases per year that could be helped by mediation. So, I mean, the need is definitely there. We've done our homework. Now, there are two separate aspects to this program. There's an advising component and there's a mediation component. The advising component consists of advisors assigned from our office to every case that comes in for the program. These advisors are trained on how to write certified letters, how to facilitate communication between the tenant and their landlords, and basically attempt to get the problem worked out before it hits the mediation cycle and we need to pay out money for the mediation. Obviously, our goal is to settle it before it gets to that point. If it does get to that point where we're making no progress and something needs to be done, we're going to make the decision as to whether to send it to Bonnie over at the mediation center or to just refer them to a lawyer. Obviously, that decision is going to be based on quite a couple of different criteria. Anywhere, how much money they're seeking, how severe the problem that they're experiencing is, and basically it's going to go through an in-house vote, and if we decide it's worthy of mediation, we're going to send it her way. So again, she's from the Center for Alternatives and Community Justice. She's going to be speaking to you a little bit later. I'm going to pass the floor to Josefa, who's going to talk about the finances of the program and some other things.
All right. Another thing that's really good about this landlord-tenant program is that it provides advantages to landlords as well as students. For landlords, you have an advantage of free access. This will be a completely free mediation service. They'll avoid lawsuits and fees. The landlords can also use this program. We're working with OCSU, Pat isn't here right now, but we're working with OCSU to create a preferred landlord program that any landlord that agrees to use this mediation service will have a preferred status, and that'll also allow them to get tenants and pretty much raise their profile on campus. And also, at the end, landlords still maintain legal rights and can still go to court after this. So this isn't a be-all, end-all. This is kind of an intermediate step that we can use to ease tensions between landlords and with this structure, Jason pretty much laid it out. What Legal Affairs will do is we'll act as a sort of screening process for these cases so that we can make sure that junk cases aren't really taken to mediation and that this money is used to the best and most efficient way possible. And in terms of finances, now we're coming with a proposal for $5,000 from UQA, and we also had secured $2,500 from the borough. We're also going to pursue grants and funds that specifically target these mediation programs. Jason has done a fair amount of research on that, and we're looking into that as well. Now I'm going to let Bonnie speak about the mediation center.
You have some stuff that was passed out to you. There's three things. One is a gray brochure that describes our organization, which is the Center for Alternatives and Community Justice. And I think one of the things that's important is that you're comfortable knowing who we are and why we would be good folks to do this for you. We've been in operation in Center County since 1978, and we've been doing mediation in Center County since 1983. I've been with the organization since 1984. We do all kinds of disputes, including landlord-tenant disputes. We also do a couple other things, and I just wanted to mention this really quickly. We have the pretrial release program. So some of your fellow students who have been arrested in Center County are under our supervision while they're awaiting trial. And that's an alternative to bail program so that you don't have to post money. So for folks who don't have money, they can be supervised by us instead of having to try to come up with a lot of money. We also have an alternative for youth, which is called a Youth Aid Panel Program, and the information on that is in your gray brochure. The blue brochure, though, is kind of like an introduction to mediation. My guess is you guys would use something similar to this. when you were explaining the process to the potential clients. This process on the white page is actually what happens in mediation. So we would have to work out the details on whether or not, because what this says is that we would speak individually with each party before they got to the mediation table. And I do think that's a good idea in some way so that they understand completely what they're getting into. There's a lot of misconceptions about what mediation is, and so we like to ease people's fears before they actually get to the room. But the way the process works is they come in, we have an opening statement where we sign forms saying what they're talking about is confidential and things like that. Each party is given an uninterrupted opportunity to present his or her side of the situation. And then we spend the rest of the time brainstorming on what it is that we could possibly do to help with solutions. It's an equaling of the playing field. Sometimes students who are tenants perceive that they have less power than landlords because of this huge conglomerate. So mediation is a nice way to level that playing field so that everybody feels comfortable in the room. We actually will probably use a co-mediation model for this, and that's because we have a lot of mediators who love doing this work, and so we will probably have two people most of the time doing the mediation. Sort of like two heads are better than one, so if we need to take people out and talk to them privately to sort of urge them along a little bit for settlement, then we'll have two people that will help do that. Our goal is to have a written agreement which both parties are willing to uphold. We would then have some sort of a referral outcome which we would send back to let people know that they came, they mediate, they reached an agreement, or they didn't. And that's all that we will tell people. I also assume that we're going to have to work out something, if the folks want this to be legally binding, that we would have to, talk about writing that into the contract. So that's just sort of a quick overview.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, any questions? Pertaining to Resolution 19, specifically for UPUA Legal Affairs or any of the other speakers up here. Representative Miller.
When do you plan on writing up, when do you plan on writing up the contract and getting into negotiations about that with the city?
Well, obviously, it's going to have to be done before the program starts. The time frame pretty much depends on when me and Bonnie can get together and actually sit down and hammer out the terms of that. We have the borough's lawyers at our disposal. It shouldn't be a problem getting that done. So, anybody else?
Other questions? Mr. Carvalho?
This is actually for Bonnie. I was just wondering, curious, what other processes or means is mediation used for within the county?
Well, we do a lot of custody disputes for the court. We have a fair housing mediation program actually through the Borough of State College as well. And we use the same fee structure, suggested fee structure for this because of that. And that's if there's discrimination in housing on the basis of pretty much anything you can imagine. The first step in the process before they will investigate the claim is to refer those folks to mediation. So we do landlord tenant, we do neighbor, we do contract disputes, a small amount of victim offender mediations, pretty much anything that anybody is interested in settling a dispute over will consider.
Representative Malloy?
How are you guys funded? I'm just wondering, I see United Way. Could you go over that? I'm just kind of curious.
Sure. Yes, actually, mediation pays for a lot of our current mediation services. We also are about 80%, no, that's not right, like 69% funded by tax dollars and a lot of donations and sliding fee. We have a sliding fee scale for people according to income. And actually, the fee structure that we talked about is right smack in the middle of that sliding fee scale, which is anywhere from $15 an hour to $75 an hour per person. So at the top of the scale, it would be $150, and at the bottom of the scale, it would be $30.
Other questions? Representative Karasik?
What safeguards are going to be in place as a form of perfect safety to ensure that the University Park Park's money, that UPUA's money does not get used for the cases that are going to be supplied to the general populace by the city program as purpose?
The borough allocated $2,500, and that $2,500 will strictly be used for the very few cases that will be non-students. The way it is right now, about 95% of the tenants, about 95% of the tenants in State College are students. And the $2,500 will be allocated to the people that aren't students and need mediation services.
Representative Smith?
Good evening, thanks for coming in. I was one of the people who asked, Dan Chris, I appreciate you coming. You just made a comment about the fact that it was, I believe you said two people that the mediation was paid for. Is this, I mean, from my interpretation, does that mean that this is like an incentive for the landlord to come in as well?
Absolutely,
That we're covering their costs?
absolutely. That's one of the main reasons why we have found over the years that landlords do not want to mediate. Not only do they have this incentive because it's just easier for them to go to court to get what they think they deserve, but they don't want to pay for a lawyer or somebody to represent them to help them in this process. So I absolutely believe that if they don't have to pay anything, that's going to be an incentive.
Ms. Olson?
I'm just wondering, it kind of follows with the previous question. Is this for grad students as well, or it seems to be written kind of vaguely?
This is for any tenant in the borough. The $5,000 that we're asking from UPUA will be used only in cases where there's a student involved in the mediation. So,
Grad student, undergrad, I mean, because
Yes.
UPUA is undergrad money, the
yes,
$2,500 is non-student money, so.
right. And grad students, obviously UPUA dollars, are only going towards the people that are paying the activity fee, where the money is coming from. That's not my end, that's, whoever's controlling the money, which isn't us.
Representative Karasik?
What I think Joanne's getting at is the problem is UPUA money cannot go to grad students.
Right.
And so is borough money going to go to grad students?
Correct.
Okay, but so.
In any case where, obviously UPUA money can only be used for undergraduate students.
Okay.
Now, in cases where you have an undergraduate student that is going to be a part of the mediation, the $5,000 will be used to cover that mediation. Now, grad students will be paid for by the borough, as well as cases where you have a tenant that's not a student or a grad student. So,
Okay.
the misconception there was that, I don't know what UPUA money goes to, so.
Representative Lucas?
To me, this sounds like really good, but do any of you see like a downfall or problem that you can see in the future with this?
The only problem that I could foresee would be a lack of interest on the part of the landlord to participate. So, again, we're working with OCSU to come up with some incentives for landlords. Hopefully, the fact that it's free to them and they're saving money not going to court as well will be enough incentive. Also, Bonnie has experience, calling in landlords, making them sit down and participate with it. I'll give the microphone to Bonnie because she has more experience with that than I do.
I do, and actually, as I said, lots of times landlords don't want to participate. They don't want to spend the time or the money doing it. But I do believe that having the program set up, and I think what will happen is early on, if they see a benefit by attending some of these and they actually see a return on their money, because a lot of times what happens when students go to court is they're ordered to pay, but then they just don't anyway, and it's not worth the landlord's time to go after them to try to get it. So I think the proof is going to be in the pudding, quite honestly, and that will help with some of the problems that might happen.
Also, we've talked to a fair amount of landlords through the presentations that we've done with the borough, and just from anecdotal evidence, most of the landlords seem like they're on board with this. So the landlord issue is a problem, but it can be easily rectified.
And honestly, the landlords we're most likely going to see sitting down will be the smaller ones that don't have the massive resources that places like the apartment store and Associated have. So we actually spoke at a meeting with a lot of the smaller landlords in town. The borough holds one every summer. We sat in on that and we talked about it. And a lot of the smaller landlords that rent out maybe 2 units, one in the top of their house, they were very, very receptive towards towards this because, as I said, they don't have the resources to take tenants to court all the time. So.
Representative Lucas.
I don't know if there's any way that this center would do anything like this, but it seems like a lot of the leases in this borough are like really unfair to renters. Is there any way to rectify that problem? Because like students are almost forced into signing leases because if they ask for an amendment, they might just be turned over the counter. So.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, all the leases in town are, they're legally written, and I actually had that conversation with Tom Fontaine a couple of times, and I mean, there's really nothing to be done on that end. You're pretty much stuck, and it's pretty much the whole purpose of this program is to give students just a little bit more power in having a say over those terms and things.
Other questions? Any last comments? All right, thank you for being here. Okay, next we have Mary Edgington, our lovely advisor.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to let you know that when I first arrived, I met with Ralph and he said, Mary, would you like to address the assembly in December? And I said, well, sure. So, since I just addressed you a couple weeks ago, I thought I was off the hook for December. But as you all know, Ralph can be very persuasive. And he said, no, I think you really should still address them. So he gave you some thoughts about things that you might be interested in as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to try to make this very brief since you have a really long meeting. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the Hub Advisory Board. Now, I know Nick wasn't able to attend our meeting today, but a couple weeks ago we did elect co-chairs. Chris Knock actually is one of our co-chairs, so I'll make sure you're aware of that. And we had and we also had a very long meeting today, and it's really coming along. The difference about this advisory board than I think years past is it actually is an advisory board for two directors, not only for myself, but for the director of the Paul Robeson Cultural Center. So we really are discussing what is the composition of the board, what should be the board. So for 2 meetings, we spent a lot of time discussing the composition. And today, I think we finally came up with something that seems would work for both directors. So we're moving forward. And I don't want to steal Chris's thunder, so if he wants to speak to that, he can. But we also are looking at some other projects. And today, we actually had 2 vendors come and present to the advisory board. For those of you who have been here for a while, you might remember STA Travel, which was in room 103 off the main lounge. They left, and temporarily, we put in the computer store. Well, their lease runs out in December, so we needed to figure out what we're going to do for the future. So we had 2 vendors present today, and one of them was the computer store, and one of them was the ID Plus office, which wants to expand. So great presentations, great discussion, but I can't tell you what the outcome is because the vendors don't know yet. So as soon as I can do that, then we can let you know what that outcome is. So I want to let you know we talked about that today. And we're also talking about space assignments, so that's starting in January. So for any of you that have space in the hub, please look in your mailboxes, pay attention to those emails because we will start looking at space assignments for next year. And we're also going to start looking at the corner pocket, some late night policies, looking at the whole late night program just to try to refresh it. So different things like that are coming up for next semester. So that's pretty much for the Hub Advisory Board. Another committee that I work on is the Student Activity Fee Board, and Gavin's on that and Matt, and of course Andrew's been very instrumental. After the November board meeting, we decided we needed to have some working meetings to really hammer out some of the issues with the handbook and some policies. So we've been meeting regularly a couple times a week since then, and we are bringing a proposal forth on Friday to hopefully rectify some of the funding for UPUA and GSA. So I won't steal Andrew's thunder, he worked very hard on that with Gavin, so I'm hoping that that's moving in the right direction, so I want to let you know we're working on that as well. I'm also on other committees like the Late Night Policy Committee and also the Classroom Committee. I went to one meeting on that, so it's been an interesting semester. And I just want to thank you all for, first of all, confirming me as advisor. I've learned quite a bit about Penn State in the last 4 months, and I really appreciate being here. I think you should all be proud of yourself for all the work you've done. It's really been a fast semester. So I want to end by saying good luck on finals. Have a safe holiday, and I have a shout out for Representative Jermansky. I think we should bring a Rose Bowl trophy home, don't you think?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, and I'll stand for questions if there are.
Any questions? Representative Morrell.
Thanks for coming again. Great seeing you. I guess with the expansion of UQA, with the expansion of UQA, it's sort of almost like a daily basis. Do you see any possibility of us maybe expanding our office, getting some more space or anything?
It's a good question. In every building that I've worked in, space has always been a problem and an issue. And I always look at the hub and think, boy, we could even use more space. We could expand. I think that's a great question. I think that will be something the space assignment student group will be looking at. But everybody's looking for more space. Yeah.
Other questions? Mr. Carmelo?
I'll stand. I was wondering, you talked about the 2 vendors that came before the board. Is that all that's going to be entertained for the space, or are you still actively looking for different vendors who would like to occupy that space?
For this time, we decided just to go with local vendors, and they're both Penn State vendors, so we just decided to go with that this time. So for now, yes, that's it.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, moving on to old business, none. New business. Policy 9, constitutional amendments. Mr. Cavallo.
As you all know, I was charged with convening an ad hoc committee about a month and a half ago in relation to both policies 9 and 4. The ad hoc committee decided that, in summary, it's summarized fairly well in the nature of the situation, that the best approach to resolving the presidential commission dilemma was to draft a working definition. And after a pretty brief deliberation, we felt it would be best to insert the definition for complete clarity in the Constitution, given some constitutional concerns about exclusiveness and also subsidiary, those clauses in the Constitution which basically prohibit the president from forming anything else besides a department within the exec board. You can read the definition. I'm not going to go through what we've defined a commission, but basically the definition was constructed in order to give maximum flexibility for things such as the election commission, and of course the recreational and intramural sports commission that President Kearns is attempting to institute, that we'll be deliberating on the policy for. It's a fairly vague definition, but there are a couple of important things to point out. First and foremost, the Assembly has the authority only to create a commission, with the President obviously to initiate legislation to do that. Also, that the membership of the commission is defined within that legislation. Other than that, the language in the document more or less clarifies to make sure that the commissions are completely constitutional and allows UQA to utilize that tool for various purposes. And also to clarify what a commission is, since our Constitution does reference an elections commission, but never defines what a commission is outside of the elections commission. Additionally, in the bottom half of the document, the second part deals with the UQA merger agreement. And on the recommendation of SOCC, the ad hoc committee also deliberated, since we were amending, we decided to amend the Constitution, we expand our jurisdiction a little bit to do some definitional and clarification points within the Constitution, and also to take under advisement the idea of expanding the board potentially to 9 to accommodate greater responsibility that the board is going to be assuming. As well as specifically charging the board to have complete control over the conduct process to further meet the agreement of the merger contract. I think other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll stand for questions. If there are any questions for the ad hoc committee on commissions.
Questions? Okay, and with that, we can move into discussion on policy 9. Representative Karasik.
In front of you, all, you have an amendment that was passed by the Internal Development Committee with additional recommendations to this policy. That would be this kind of nondescript page that we just got out this evening, because it was passed this evening, like this. First off, where it says insert new clause 5 to read, you can forget that. We realized that was actually ended up in the Constitution anyway. So what we're talking about here is the Constitution currently states that at-large members should attend meetings of the now defunct Funding Allocation Board, the soon-to-be incorporated Student Organization Conduct Committee. And so we wanted to tighten up the document to remove those and simply correct some grammar there. The next one simply expands the Board of Arbitration's duty to deal with student organization conduct, as do the other two. So we're looking at just tightening up the document means and expanding the Board of Arbitration's duty to what the merger agreement talks about.
Do you have more copies?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yes, I move to amend what's in front of you with the exception of the first line.
Did everyone get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second? Any objections to that amendment? That looks like this. Any objections? Okay, amendment passes. Moving on to further discussion. Policy 9. Representative Szymanski? Is there a second to end debate?
Second.
Any objections to ending debate on policy 9? Okay, and we will vote. Roll call, Secretary.
Michael Ollinger,
Yes.
William Barr,
Yes.
Jim Byrne,
Yes.
Ralph Carvello,
Yes.
Sarah Donenberg, Hillary Gupta, yes. Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Hubert Hines, Andrew Karasik,
Here, yeah, sorry, I'm reading. Yeah.
John King,
Yes.
Pierre Corey, Sean Leonard,
Yes.
Sam Loner,
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas, Nick Mintz,
Yes.
Sean Malloy,
Oh, yes.
Samantha Miller, Christopher Morrell, Christopher Knopf, Ellie Uckelberg, Greg Plum,
Yes.
Brian Poland, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland, Amy Sanders, Carolyn Severi, Philip Slusser, Richard Szymanski, Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith, Michael Smith, Michael Wallace,
Yes.
Okay, so we needed a 3/4 on that. Passes 32-0-0. Moving on to confirmation of the executive appointments. So what we have are all of the members of Student Organizational Conduct Committee. Oh, I'm sorry. First we have Mr. Carvello. This is really messed up. Go ahead.
I'll keep this brief. Basically, I'm before you. The item passed me tonight to be representative on the Student Activity Board. Basically, I'm replacing Matt since he is going abroad next semester. I guess I was nominated, and I speak on behalf of the President because I am the Assembly Chairman and represent you all, and thus the undergraduate student body here. I guess I'll just stand for questions since you're all vastly aware of who I am and what I do.
Questions. This is a good chance to ask him anything. Representative Szymanski.
Sitting on the Student Activity Fee Board, I'm in charge of representing undergraduate students. So my goals are somewhat irrelevant, and it's more representing this body as well as the undergraduate students. So personally, I have no goals going in there other than what's already been stated by the organization and will be stated by the organization in QA.
Representative Karasik.
Will you or Matt be going to this Friday? If you're approved.
Yes. Well, I did sit in for Matt at the last meeting, and I will be, to my knowledge, after I'm confirmed, I will take the reins and will be the voting member for UPUA on the board.
Representative Wallace.
What experience do you have that qualifies you for this position?
Well, Representative, I've been in student government now for 4 years. I've been elected 4 times, 3 times, excuse me, by undergraduate students. First by off-campus students, and then twice by the College of Engineering. And I was elected by this assembly to serve as the voice of this body and to serve you guys. So.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure, I do support Wally Police, so that's it.
If you were any part of the Big Mac, part of it?
I would be the tomato.
Representative Hines.
That is a personal answer, Representative. What you think?
I don't think there's.
Representative Logan, do you have questions? Okay, Representative Vance.
I just want to say, Ron, the problem is that you have many duties and responsibilities. Are you at all concerned that now doing the SAFB as well as may not have the time and energy that you want to put into this additional or other duties and responsibilities or something?
Thanks for a very serious question, Nick. Yeah, I did take that into consideration, that indeed with my other responsibilities, and I'm also an officer at 2 other organizations. I did take that into consideration. But the board does meet pretty infrequently, and we do have other members of UPUA, such as Representative Karasik, who are going to be handling the more day-to-day events of the board. So I feel that I do have adequate time to go to the bi-monthly meetings or whatever they turn out to be.
Is that all for questions? Representative Lohner, last one.
Do you see by the end of this academic year there being a change in policy where we're going to have to go to an official change in policy where money is to us?
In terms of lump sum allocation?
Yeah.
Actually, we're voting on that this Friday, and we'll be going through the hurdles, and Representative Karasik will actually talk about that later. So I do plan on honoring UPUA's position for what it's worth.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I'd like to ask you to leave the room, please. This will be the only time that happens. And close the door. Okay, moving on, heads of the Board of Arbitration. What we're going to do for this portion now is we're going to have each of these people that are listed on your agenda, they're going to, there we go. Congratulations, Mr. Gavello. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each of these people that's on your agenda speak for a couple minutes about who they are, what they've been doing in SOCC, and what they plan on doing Board of Arbitration, what they think their role is there. So we can have all of those people up. We're just going to do it all, streamlined. So if we can start with Joshua. Just a couple minutes. We're going to go through each of you, and then we'll have all of you leave and discuss you individually, just like we did Mr. Gavello. Okay, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh Ellis. I am a senior and I'm a crime law justice major. I currently serve as the co-chair for the Student Organization Conduct Committee along with my other co-chair, Katie. And I've been a part of the SOCC since its inception, my sophomore year, so roughly about 2 years ago. At that point I was the youngest member on the board, and I have served as both the conduct justice and the co-chair for the past 2 academic years. I've really tried to help. We actually haven't gone live until last semester, as some of you may know. So I took an active role in trying to push the procedures through and trying to get our organization live and taking care of cases. We've had several cases in the past year that I've handled, obviously, and I'm just looking to try to make this a smooth transition and looking to really get the Board of Arbitration moved forward so that it'll be formed by the end of the next, by the end of this academic year, that it can go into effect the next academic year. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you, getting some input, as well as with my members of the current committee and some administrators.
Okay, thank you. Katie? After each of you kind of introduces yourselves, we'll just have you all stand for questions at once, I guess. If you all aren't aware, Joshua and Katie would be the heads. So that's why they're presenting themselves first.
Hi, I'm Katie. Katie Sauce. I'm a senior. I'm a crime law and justice studies major and sociology major, minor in philosophy. I'm the co-chair along with Josh. I served as a conduct justice last year, but I took a more active role, and it was my job to contact student organizations if they committed a violation via email, and then our chairpersons would meet with them. I've been the co-chairperson for the past year, working with Josh with student organizations and helping form a new discipline process for you guys. I, along with Josh, are looking forward to moving this process forward and merging with UA.
Thank you. All right, Luke?
Hi, I'm Luke Bean. I'm a senior. I'm a crime law and justice and economics major. I joined the SOCC last year, and I was conduct justice last year, and then am again this year, and I'm working on taking a more active role, doing Katie's job of contacting student organizations and letting them know if they've committed violations. I'm working with her now and taking that on. And I look forward to being part of UPUA and getting the Board of Arbitration set up and working on the new policies and structure to get it running by the end of the year.
Thank you. Thomas? Oh, okay. Catherine?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Mattis, and I'm a senior studying political science and history. This is my second year involved with SOCC, and I have a couple years of experience drafting pieces of student government-related legislation, as well as drafting pieces of constitutional amendments and such. So I'm very excited about this merger and working with all of you, and I'm excited for a great week.
Thank you. Justin?
Hi, my name is Justin Metz. I'm a CLJ major, junior. I have a focus on legal studies. This is my first semester here at University Park, and so my first semester with SOCC. I decided to join because I think both student organizations and the community of the university do deserve an unbiased judgment when there's allegations brought forth.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Thomas. I'm a sophomore energy business and finance with a minor in French. And I joined SOCC this year, and I joined basically to be a part of the students involved in student organizations, and I'm looking forward to the merger and writing everything and getting everything all together.
Thank you. C? Jay?
Hi, my name is Jose. I'm a freshman. I'm a freshman medicine major, and this is my first year of SOCC. And the reason I wanted to join SOCC was to perpetuate a sense of equality and fairness with what student organizations have at stake. So,
Thank you. Okay, do Josh and Katie want to come up separately, or do you just all want to come up at once, stand for questions? Okay, all together? I'm getting that kind of. pressure up here. All right, all together, and then representatives can ask anyone. So all of you. Yeah, please. We're just doing it this way so it's quicker. Okay, questions? Representative Smith.
Would any of you be willing to speak to Mr. Foley's involvement in your group and his interest in being on board?
He has been contacted. We haven't got the chance to hear back from him, but when we talked to him before, he was very excited about working with us, help with the merger. All I can say is that he just didn't answer his phone today. But as far as we know, he is ready to move forward with us.
Representative Knock.
Both factors that make the merger, week after week, heard Ralph saying that talks to receiver. Is there anything that came through Ralph? I just want to know what all is on that.
Obviously, this is kind of a big move. We are a young organization. We put a lot of time and effort into creating our own process that we wanted to make sure that we wanted everything, just fine-line everything with what we wanted to see, and as well as what you guys wanted to see as well. And we reached that medium, and it did take a few weeks, a couple months, but I think that's what we needed to really put together an effective agreement.
Other questions? Representative Quinn?
Okay, what year is Thomas Fuller?
He's a junior.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because by my count, half of you all are seniors and will be graduating at your senior night. So how do you feel about carrying over, since you are working out this merger? You said you want to implement in the fall. How do you feel about the future of your organization and potential leadership?
Josh and I are very confident with the members we will have left. We personally help train them, and we go through a number of training meetings where we go through the process and make sure they know how it works. And I'm confident, and I'm sure Josh is too, that they can carry on the stuff that we worked for this semester.
Other questions? Representative Morone?
No, I just think you guys really good. I guess my question is, you guys are coming over from two affairs with past advisors, influences, everybody. You guys were sort of handpicked. Interpretation. But do you guys think that, in front of everybody, you can also say that you will have no influence from an advisor, anyone's through affairs, or any of the policies that was SOCC? Do you think you'll be able to adapt an independent, school of thought in the UA and totally, remove yourself from SOCC, operating not procedures, but standards, now that you're in the UA?
Anyone can answer, unless they direct it to someone specific. Okay.
I know I answered this in the interview earlier tonight, but I'm really confident that any of these members that would not be influenced by the SOCC's process. When it goes to a hearing within our process now, there is no influence from any type of advisor from student affairs or any type of administrator. They're able to render their decisions solely on their own without any type of influence, so they've had this experience in the past. Katie and I are the only two individuals that would have had that influence because how our structure is set up. Our disciplinary conference occurs with just the co-chair and the advisor, so it's both those two that help make the decisions. However, given my experience in the past, I've been able to render my own decisions without being heavily influenced by the advisor as well. We work collaboratively.
Representative Karasik?
In addition to your duty, in addition to your duty as the current duties that you do under SOCC and student organization conduct, one of your biggest duties, if not your main duty as board of arbitration of this organization, will be to adjudicate disputes within entities that you collect, and that is a very big thing to take on. Because it's something that we lack in this organization. It's something that's very important to are you all prepared to take on that initiative and to ensure that you follow that and keep the Constitution as close as you can
think as a group, I can speak for everyone when I say we're very excited to take on additional responsibilities. As a group, sometimes the co-chairs end up taking on a lot of the responsibility, and the rest of us don't have as much of a chance to get involved. And we're excited to be able to do something different and take on that new role as well in helping regulate the internal affairs of UPUA in such a way that we can, give our insight and give an unbiased opinion from another party that can just kind of regulate things when it's needed.
Other questions? Mr. Cabello?
I want to thank all of you guys for coming tonight and suffering the abuse that you're going through. On a serious note, though, I just want to ask what, benefit or really what are you looking forward to most that UPA can offer? You as students, and you as a student group with a mission by becoming part of UPA. What excites you the most about the merger?
Well, I know that in our discussions with Ralph throughout the past couple months, it seemed as though when we merge, it kind of gives the students a little bit more responsibility. Given our process, there are a lot of administrators on board, and this is what we're used to, but we're looking to make that change. And we do realize that it is really important at a university such as SA size that students should have more of a voice. And this really does give us a chance to kind of amend our process now to kind of show that, to see that there are students really governing other students. So this is something we're really looking forward to doing, and we'll meet with all of you.
Representative Szymanski.
Specifically, just pointed at the last person on this list that I did it. Can you tell me more about yourself? I got a lot from everyone else's speech, but all I really got was that you were a freshman or in Texas organization. Can you give a little more background of the student leadership roles or something like that?
Well, I don't have any specific sort of background in official decisions or anything like what the SFCC does, but back in high school I did some sort of debate with student parties like what you guys are doing right now, but that's this kind of experience I had. But even though I'm relatively inexperienced, I'm hoping I can develop my skills with other members of the SFCC. And most importantly, maintaining neutrality, I can probably do this.
I have a question. For those of you who are not seniors, will you be preparing yourselves to be the heads? Because we're going to be looking to whoever, to step up and be willing and ready to take those positions. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Yes, from what I learned this semester, I do plan on being part of the board again next year and hopefully taking on the role of co-chair with Josh and Katie Julie.
Any other questions? Okay, so all of you leave and we're going to discuss you, and then someone will bring you back in. So give us a little bit of time. Thank you. Okay, congratulations to all of you. At this time, you're going to have to take your oath of office with President Kierans. So please come forward.
I don't have other versions of religious texts. And it wouldn't be done, although I would be very
You guys ready? Repeat after me. I promise
I promise to faithfully uphold the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association.
All together, Mr. Pitt.
I'm sorry, I can't read that. I promise to faithfully uphold the Constitution of the University Park Undergraduate Association and to defend the rights of each individual student while working toward the betterment of student life. I shall perform to the best of my ability the responsibilities and duties that have been entrusted to me by the University Park Undergraduate Student Body through virtue of the office which I hold. Congratulations.
Okay, moving on. Policy 4, Recreation and Intramural Sports Commission. Representative Karasik.
Will the parents considered part of the executive order or requirement for tenants to be according to our bylaws, members of the Board of Arbitration are required to leave office hours, as all members of UPUA are technically allowed. Of course, we're not going to enforce that until obviously I'm not, advising the secretary not, until we inform them of that, so they get acquainted with the office and so forth. And the only other necessity is that a member of the Board of Arbitration, preferably the head or one of the heads, or a member of rotation, kind of like we do with legal affairs, is present at meetings, so that there is a dispute that arises, one of them will at least be a little bit knowledgeable of the situation. Thank you.
Okay, Policy 4, permit introduction, Mr. Kierans.
This is a policy created by myself, Michael Smith, and Jim Byrne. It was originally presented October 1st. It's now comes to the floor December 3rd. It basically, the idea behind this commission is that there's a clear need on this campus to look at the intramural and recreation use of facilities, programs themselves, the overcrowded venues, how the intramural program works, and so on and so on. With this facilities fee having been implemented, it's important that there's an outlet for this type of voice to be heard. Also, another benefit of this is that UPUA currently doesn't dive into these type of topics usually, but it's definitely a clear need and something that's very popular within the Penn State community. So I think it's important that we take a look at it. By looking at it, you can see kind of how it's going to be set up. It's unique in its kind in that we're having a commission for the first time within the UPUA structure where we're actually bringing in different faculty, administrators, and housing them within the UPUA commission setup to kind of allow us to kind of consult with them and them consult with us in order to really have a product together so that we can kind of advocate for certain ideas and come together on certain things. I have been working a lot with Director of Recreation Sports, Tom Lovins, on this, and I had a recent conversation with him letting him know that this was not in fact dead, just to kind of let him know to keep hope, because it was kind of 2 months ago that we originally wanted to do this. But now it's being brought to the floor, and feel free to ask questions.
Questions? Representative Leonard?
On point 8, it says that the commission is, the Committee on Diversity and Student Life has oversight of this commission. I was just wondering why, I guess. I was just wondering how the oversight, how you could see oversight being necessary.
This was actually put in after the fact. This wasn't the original document. And Ralph, I mean, you can speak to why that's put in there. He's not here. I mean, the idea was that this would be something that student life would deal with, and it kind of allows for them to kind of offer their insight. really it's kind of a bureaucratic formality, so. Well,
Other questions?
great.
Okay, and with that, we'll move into discussion on policy 4. Representative Miller.
I'm just gonna speak in support of policy 4 because I think that in order to see how a commission's gonna work, particularly one with faculty members sitting on it, we do need something to experiment with, and I think that's probably a very good topic to do that with. So I would support the passage of this policy.
Further discussion on policy 4. Representative Lohner.
I'll echo those sentiments. I think it's a good idea. I think it will help with issues that rise regarding facility usage and maybe eventually help the facilities board members decide how to address facilities issues. That I guess I'm going to end debate.
Any objections to ending the debate on policy 4? No, okay. Voting secretary, roll call.
Michael Aldinger,
Yes.
William Marr. Okay. Jim Murn,
Yes.
Ralph Crivello,
Yes.
Sarah Donnenberg, Hillary Gupta,
Yes.
Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Hubert Hines,
Yes.
Andrew Tarasek, John King,
Yes.
Peter Corey,
Yes.
Sean Leonard,
Yes.
Sam Lohner,
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas,
Yes.
Nick Mann,
Yes.
Sean Malloy,
Yes.
Samantha Miller, Christopher Morrell,
Yes.
Christopher Knopf, Ellie Opelberg, Greg Plum, Brian Pullen, Kelly Potter, Megan Quinn, Christian Ragland,
Yes.
Amy Sanders, Philip Slesser,
Yes.
Richard Shermansky,
Yes.
Colleen Smith, Matthew Smith,
Yes.
Michael Smith,
Yes.
Michael Wallace,
Policy 4 passes 2801. Moving on to Resolution 19, funding of the Tenant Landlord Mediation Center. We have an introduction by Representative Miller.
I think that the presentation by Legal Affairs and the ACJ stands for a pretty good introduction in itself. The only thing two things I would stress is that, first of all, it's important to keep in mind if you're looking at this piece of legislation that UQA Legal Affairs and the borough worked very hard to come up with a structure that they both agreed on, and it's almost to the point where if it's altered too far or even a little bit, they're going to have to start at square one because this has already been agreed upon. That is why the borough has secured funding for it. So before anyone wants to go ripping into it, now if they can go up the right, just keep in mind that it could result in this project having to go back all the way to the start and us not being able to start in January at all. The second thing I want to stress is that I would encourage you to look at the amendments that you have on the second document made by the steering committee. I think they are all valuable amendments. They don't change the process and structure of the center itself, just more of the interaction with the QA, and I would support accepting all those amendments.
Questions? Representative Shermansky?
Yes, just wanted to know, where did the $5,000 number come from? What had us set on $5,000?
That number I think came up in negotiations, and Gavin can confirm this or correct me, initially between UQA and UQA Legal Affairs for this program, and then also as part of the funding that we received from the student affairs, $5,000 was set aside for this program.
Other questions for Ms. Miller? Representative Lombard?
I'm just wondering why we struck directors from 2009 program and added that we'll have like an executive board appointment for that.
Well, first of all, that hasn't been done yet, but that's up to you, to us as a something.
Well, the thought behind it.
But, who made that? Did you make? Yeah, maybe Gab wants to speak to that, that was his.
The thought process behind it is that a lot of times, especially I've heard the interaction between legal affairs and UPUA, this would kind of be, there is a sector, but they're not mandatory have to attend meetings. This would make it so that they are mandatory have to attend meetings, and if there's any questions, as this is the first pilot program of the kind, and really our biggest sort of initiative to date, that the assembly can kind of be kept up on what's going on. The idea would be basically, Jason will be the director who goes to the ID and goes to the assembly. This is just kind of a more formal step to keep contact with the assembly. So that's the idea behind it.
Mr. Carvello?
This is a question more to the president, but Senator Moore would like to chime in. With the appointment of a director in the original language of the Constitution, does the president have any individuals in mind that would be nominated for such directorship? Did you say specifically?
Jason will be the this. I just said that. Thanks.
Okay, other questions for Ms. Miller? Ms. Olson?
My question still remains on the funding for grad students, but I'll let that set. Is this for people just living within the legal municipality of the borough, or for a student who lives in College Township or Houserville or Lamont? Are they covered?
I believe in, yeah,
Any objections to yielding the floor, Mr. Lockman? Okay, great.
Hey, all right, so to clarify both grad students and with regards to basically the eligibility program, there's going to be two subsets of eligible people, and who gets paid for based on that. Any resident of State College Borough is eligible, and any undergraduate Penn State student is eligible. So grad students who live in the borough will also be eligible. Undergraduate Penn State students who live outside the borough are eligible. People who live outside of State College Borough and are not undergraduate Penn State students are not eligible.
Okay.
So that clarifies that issue. In the future, with a permanent program, looking at funding it at a greater level or from other municipalities, we could expand it, but for the pilot program, it'll be undergraduate Penn State students and borough residents. There's a lot of overlap there, but it's not a complete overlap.
Other questions for Representative Miller? Okay, if there are no other questions at this time, we'll move into discussion on the resolution 19. Mr. Carvello.
As per the steering committee's deliberation, you'll see a separate document in your agenda tonight with the amendments. It was thought it would be easier just to put them on the same paper so you can see what's being changed. And as such, I move I move to adopt the amendments listed on this paper. Yes, which is a 3-page document.
Second.
Any objections to those amendments? Okay, amendments pass.
And just to clarify, in the amendments and in the original language, there is, and this was deliberated in the steering committee, it says that 4,000 shall be allocated for student mediation. It does not specify what type of student. Of course, that does imply that they're Penn State students, but other than that, that's the language of the document is currently written. And the original document didn't really even mention any specific breakdown. So this does only provide that UPUA funds students. Does it say medication? It's meant to say mediation. Thanks for bringing that to
Executive is also spelled on. Wow, 34.
That's what happens when you edit something in Adobe and you don't know how to use it and nothing comes up.
Okay, Rob. Okay.
How about misspellings he can take care of later? So With that, any objections to these amendments? It's already been seconded. Okay, amendments pass, like I said. Further discussion on resolution 19. Representative Lohner.
Everybody, I think this is a really wise piece of legislation to pass. I know myself and many other off-campus representatives ran with this as either the cornerstone or very close to the cornerstone of our campaigns. And to have this be a reality in spring of 2009 would be remarkable, and I think it would do students a great amount of justice, and it would it's really going to help the QA as a whole.
Further discussion. Representative Malloy.
Second.
Okay. To vote. Any objections to voting? All right, roll call.
Michael Aldinger.
Yes.
William Barr.
Yes.
Jim Byrne.
Yeah.
Ralph Corbella.
Yes.
Heather Gupta. Mark Cannon.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Sorry. Hubert Hines. Yes. John King.
Yes.
Peter Corey.
Yes.
Sean Leonard.
Yes.
Sam Milner.
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard.
Yes.
Stephen Lucas. Nick Vance.
Yes.
Sean Malloy.
Yes.
Amanda Miller.
Yes.
Christopher Morrell.
Yes.
Christopher Knott.
Yes.
Ellie Okelberg.
Yes.
Greg Plum.
Yep.
Bryant Poland.
Yes.
Kelly Potter.
Yes.
Megan Quinn. Yes. Christian Ragland.
Yes.
Amy Sanders. Yes. Carolyn Severi. Philip Slusser.
Yes.
Richard Termansky.
Yes.
Colleen Smith. Yes. Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Michael Smith.
Yes.
Michael Wallace.
Okay, resolution 19 passes 2800. Okay, moving on to resolution 18. Glad we did that in order. Presidential dinner. Mr. Kieran's introduction.
This is a dinner similar to that of, real quick, this is a dinner similar to that to the former cabinet student leaders. The purpose of doing this dinner is really to increase the collaboration and the dissemination of information. The good thing about these meetings in the past was that was one of the keys of, in my experience with them, was one of the keys of getting together is that, if you had an open position, if you had 4 assembly seats open, you would send out to all these major organizations who had a really solid base of members, and you can get some good members in return. Or if you're trying to run an initiative, you need some support, you want to team up on things, that's what it was good for. So there was negatives that were associated with it as well by some people, but by doing it run by UPUA basically in this instance, and inviting all these different groups to the table will only enhance our mission as the undergraduate student government.
Questions? Representative Lombard.
I was just wondering, where is this dinner going to take place if it's only going to be costing $200?
It's not going to be like, sorry to cut you off. It's not going to be like a council dinner, and it's really a meeting with food. So it's basically what it is. It's not going to be top notch. It's not supposed to be. It's just to provide some food for those coming out. So it's not supposed to be something. When they have the student ones, when the administrative ones, where they have it run by the student affairs vice president, they would kind of have it catered. When they did the students one, they would give money to have like pizzas or wings or something like that. So that's what we're going for. It's kind of an informal meeting where we can start just kind of throwing around topics to discuss, because that really hasn't happened much.
You'll have enough.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. And if it's, at least for this one, if it's not, if we want to do it again, this is kind of a test run to see how this works. So. Well, not including tax, my friend. So.
Representative Szymanski.
What about the presidents from the campus colleges?
Well, they're not not really involved overly in university park relations, so. We do have the CCSG president going though. He's supposed to act for all of them. It's the role.
Besides bringing up, I guess, topics of concern among the organizations, is there going to be any outreach or information sharing about what UPUA is and does and consists of, and the opportunities that UPUA can provide these student groups?
We're all sufficient for an invitation. No, really what this is, to be honest with you, these groups are some of the main groups on campus, and they should know what UPUA is and does and all that already. So, yes, there'll be some room for that, but that's not the focus of it. The focus is more to kind of share ideas of what's going on in their organizations, kind of talk about how we as organizations can help each other. But really, this will be hosted by UPUA. The focal point will be UPUA. So those type of points you hit on will be addressed.
Representative Lucas.
I want to propose an amendment with you. Sorry.
There's discussion.
Okay, so here's my question. CAUSL had a lot of the leaders in CAUSL last year had a big problem with UPUA. We actually have a really bad reputation among a lot of student organizations on campus. On our part for passing the 5-year plan and for other things as well. What as president of UPUA will you do to better our reputation?
I think we've been working on that. Honestly, I know there was problems last year with the 5-year plan and things associated with that, but a lot of the major organizations on campus, to my knowledge, we do have some pretty good relationships with. As I read off these lists, I mean, I know most of the presidents by name, can have conversations with most of them, have pretty good relationships with them, and there's not really that antagonizing type of UPUA is trying to take us over type of thing. At least I don't think, and that's not the what I can. The only group that I can foresee currently having a problem with is with us maybe is UPAC, and that's just because we're involved in various negotiations of the activity fee and things of that nature. But outside of that, I mean, if you look at the Greek organizations, I mean, we've been heavily involved with the Greek organizations and you know, the different organizations, Lion Dash, Blue and White Society, Galleries of Land. So I think we're working on things and trying to improve relations.
What exactly ended this, like from last year to this year, like why haven't the Office of Student Affairs gotten some type of thing like possible?
That can answer the question. That's up to the Office of Student Affairs. I know I talked with Vice President David Sims about this, and he had said that he wanted to get some type of meeting together, but part of the reason that he hasn't gotten this together and is capping the student leaders, and this is something that we should all appreciate, is the fact that CAUSL, before Damon and maybe before Gal, was often used as kind of another organization in place of the student government. And his explanation for not getting this together is really to look to UPUA as the official voice. So.
You probably answered. Where's the event taking place?
320 Hub, I think. One of these. I just said, yeah, seems to be mine.
Representative Black.
What is Pride? I think that's the only one I haven't heard of before.
Pride. The Pride Initiative, yeah, they Valerie can answer this.
Pride Initiative began after the 2005 Ohio State game when there was riots.
Okay.
After that game, it was basically an initiative by students to promote sportsmanship around campus, but their numbers are dwindling. It used to be by application process, now it's basically accepting anyone. They've also had a change in leadership recently, so to get them back up to speed, kind of help them out, they need collaboration. And I've been doing that, but inviting them to this would be appropriate.
Okay.
Further questions? Representative Okabar?
Sorry, I have 2 points. I just wanted to ask, this is directed to Stephen Lucas.
Let's save that for discussion.
What?
Save it for discussion?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Other questions just for Mr. Cairns? Representative Lucas?
Can you give a rationale why groups like Safe Harbor State, College Democrats, and College Republicans are on this list? Because they're not represented bodies.
Okay. one of the things that I wanted to do in having this meeting was look to kind of the most local and I guess active groups on campus and the current. It's not necessarily looking for representative bodies. That they don't all have to be. I mean, Pride's not a representative body either necessarily, or you could argue that Thon necessarily isn't a regular or student program associations. And, I mean, really, the reason for putting them on there, I'd say, is just because I think that they do have a presence on campus. I mean, the same way I would have probably, if this was in the fall semester, probably invited students from Barack Obama or the John McCain group. If this is a meeting that I'm on, I think we can kind of talk about what we can do moving forward as far as these groups. And I'm certainly open to amending this and changing this. This is just, I had kind of gone from the old cause list, but I kind of saw a few groups that thrown in there. I know Sean, I know Alex, I know Chris, and I think that they do a lot on campus. So I feel like just giving them the chance to kind of talk about what they're up to and kind of maybe work with other organizations, I see that as positive.
Other questions for Mr. Cairns? Representative Miller?
Is this something you see UPA funding on a regular basis, or do you see it as you kicking it off and then other organizations stepping up to follow up?
I thought about both approaches. I'd like to see it done right. So if it has to be within UPUA, I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it can only help us as an organization to continue to host this, and it kind of, from now on, it kind of becomes a tradition that UPUA hosts this as far as other groups. But if that's not something that other groups are comfortable with, and they wanted to kind of have their, then I wouldn't be opposed to that. I could also see like GSA, for instance, as far as financial contributions, throwing in money and things like that, or CCSG and those type of groups. So this is kind of as we're doing the Tenant Landlord pilot program, this is kind of EPA's pilot program into this type of dinners meetings.
Any other questions for Mr. Cairns? Representative Cannon?
Is it just the presidents from these organizations?
Yeah, the presidents are someone that they send as a representative. That's how it was for the cabinet and student leaders. And I think that's kind of good that you get kind of the figurehead and spokesperson for the group kind of acting in this role.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Moving into discussion. Representative Okelberg.
Hi, this is directed towards Stephen Lucas. As diversity chair, how do you feel about the GSA Alliance and the Latino Caucus not being on that list?
Okay, in response to that, I was gonna move to amend this document, a friendly amendment, adding Latino Caucus to this document, and also replacing Speak Out with Rainbow Roundtable. Rainbow Roundtable is a representative body of the 7 LGBTQ student organizations, and Speak Out is one of them. They have representatives at large.
Second.
Any objections to that amendment?
That's perfectly fine. Speak Out's already been invited, so could they be the representative? For the, I mean, that's, we can invite somebody else. That's perfectly fine, but just for that point.
I can talk with them, but in this document, I think it should be.
That to my knowledge, and this is the reason that I invited Speak Out, not that they were the group that was invited before. It could have been as a representative from the Rainbow Roundtable that it was.
Well, Rainbow Roundtable.
Right.
Rainbow Roundtable was just organized as a student organization this year. Last year it was not recognized. It was just a casual meeting. So last year we sent a representative from Rainbow Roundtable instead of someone from Speak Out.
Okay, so back to that amendment. It was seconded. Any objections to that amendment? Adding in Latino Caucus as well as Rainbow Roundtable. Okay, if there are no objections, the amendment passes. Further discussion? Resolution 18. President Gantz?
I just want to say, I think that we as a group and the president should be commended for this because I strongly support this because it kind of shows UPUA kind of taking the lead as the main body of student government here in Penn State to take the time and the initiative to have the university group to go out and use this year and first organize this.
Further discussion? Is everyone? Yeah.
Second.
Okay, objections to voting? Okay, voting on resolution 18, roll call, secretary?
Mike Aldinger,
Yes.
William Barr,
Yes.
Jim Byrne,
Yes.
Ralph Cabello,
Yes.
Hillary Guzda, Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Hubert Hine, Andrew Harrison,
Yeah.
Did we bring it to the
No.
Sorry, good idea.
But I wasn't here.
No, you shouldn't be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my fault,
So
though.
I move to bring this to the floor unanimously and continue with the vote, so it would be a suspension of the rules.
Second.
Fine. Okay. Any objections? No? Okay. Any objections? Any further objections? Okay, so, would you like to bring this to the floor by 2/3?
Are you suspending the rules?
I move to suspend the rules and accept that it's already been brought to the floor by 2/3, proceed with the vote.
You objected to that.
Okay, well then it goes into a discussion and
That's-
it's a 2/3 vote.
Discussion on 2/3 voting it onto the floor.
Given the floor.
Would you like the floor? Okay.
I mean, I was just gonna vote against bringing it to the floor. I really don't see the need for college Democrats or Republicans to be included in the list. I think the inclusion of state part of the state is also debatable, but it was just merely because I don't think it's.
Representative Bradley?
Oh yeah, I forgot to say, I had a core meeting before Thanksgiving break, and it was the international, they're from Africa, but I can't think of the name, but they were asking that if I could mention to you, they feel like they've been kind of left out. You know, this is a new group, they wanted some type of, somebody just kind of talk to them, see how they can get started, what they can, the help they can get and stuff like that. So if I can get their name, I can't get their name.
Further discussion on bringing this to the floor? Getting 2/3 on this. Representative Lombard?
I think we can certainly bring this to the floor. All these other discussions should be done while we're talking about the actual document.
That's not the motion. The motion is that the discussion's already been completed. The motion is to suspend the rules and proceed with the vote. That was already objected to.
Yeah, we objected to that, so now we're in discussion on bringing it to the floor.
We're not discussing on that motion. Do we discuss on that motion or not?
That's what we're discussing right now.
I know, I keep saying that.
The motion I made, to be clear, was to suspend the rules, okay, in lieu that we violated them. Otherwise, we go back to square one and open up discussion. And proceed, since it was agreed to, we already debated this, it's already questioned, we already agreed to end debate on something you weren't supposed to debate. The motion was to suspend the rules, we didn't have to go through all that again, and then proceed with the vote. So we are debating whether to suspend the rules and then vote on this resolution right now. That's what we're debating.
Discussion.
I move to end debate on the motion to suspend the rules.
Any objections?
Yeah.
Okay, show of hands.
Suspend the rules.
Suspending the rules. My fault, sorry everyone. I know, I fail.
Point of order.
Yes.
What do you need for that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 objections. I know, but any objections? 1. Abstentions? 0. Okay. Passes 24-1-0. Roll call vote. We've already had discussion, so roll call vote on the resolution. Yes, just start over.
Alright, Michael Aldinger,
Yes.
William Barr,
Yes.
Jim Byrne, Ralph Cabello,
Yes.
Hillary Guzda, Mark Cannon,
Yes.
Hubert Hines, Andrew Carsick,
Yes.
John King, Peter Corey, Sean Leonard, Sam Loner, Benjamin Lombard,
Yes.
Stephen Lucas, Nick Mann,
Yes.
Sean Malloy,
Samantha Miller. No. Christopher Morel.
Stay.
Okay, Christopher Knopf.
Yes.
Ellie Ogelberg. Yes. Greg Plum. Brian Pullen.
Yes.
Kelly Potter.
Yes.
Megan Quinn. No. I'm sorry. No. Christian Ragland.
Yes.
Amy Sanders. Yes. Carolyn Severity. Philip Slusser.
Yes.
Richard Shermansky. Colleen Smith. Yes. Matthew Smith.
No.
Michael Smith.
Yes.
Michael Wallace.
Yes.
Resolution 18 passes 24-3-4.
Motion to reinstate the rules.
The rules were suspended for one purpose, it's not necessary.
You don't have to
Let's just move beyond this issue right now. Go ahead, Mr. Gavello.
I move to bring policy number 10 to the floor by 2/3.
Any objections to bringing policy 10 to the floor by 2/3? Okay, introduction.
Well, this budget came through the ID committee. We were presented with it this week actually, but it did come through the ID committee. You should all have a new version in front of you, although not everybody may have that copy. The way you can tell whether it's a new version is to turn to page 2 of 12. You'll be able to see on there. I'm sorry, if you turn to 3 of 12, under remaining unrestricted for future events via legislation, after the type 40 total of 2,861.37, there should be a number in parentheses, and that was the change that Gavin has done to this document to put more money in the type 40 account until it is needed by those departments that are listed there.
It was actually, that's not what it would be. There was a supplemental document that went along with the president's report.
I thought that was with
That was with the president's report. It was on a separate page. It wasn't involved in this, so.
well, that's what I meant. That's
Yeah, it's page 2 and 3, and it's the president's report put together, and that's outside of this document. So you should get a chance to look at it.
So it was passed by ID by a vote of 6-0-0 with an amendment to change the facilities budget down to 200 and internal development up to 200. The reason for this is to bring equality to the committees. We spoke with Nick before bringing this to the floor. Each group has different things they need to do. And so so the budget comes forward with that amendment attached. Are there any questions?
Questions for Mr. Karasik, Mr. Carvalho?
Yeah, I just asked Gavin this, and like one of you just publicly stated, I had no idea what you said about the correction that was made, so could you just re-clarify that?
Yeah, basically what it is if you look at the executive board section, under the off-campus sponsorship and initiative, where it says discretionary 1,000, that $1,000 is now on hold until that there's a concrete explanation can be given. Women's Affairs 500 is now also on hold, and also for multicultural, there's a more in-depth explanation of the spending. For community service, more in-depth explanation. For grassroots, more in-depth explanation. For President's Fund for Student Leaders Events and Awards, more in-depth explanation. That is what is in the adjacent document. The reasoning for this is I didn't really think it was At this point, I didn't think it was fair for me to call for $1,000 off the campus for discretionary. What was fair for discretionary? I don't believe that any budget should be completely discretionary. So with the first meeting of next semester, we will either provide a concrete explanation of what that is or withdraw that hold. So that's what will come to the floor beginning next semester.
Other questions for Mr. Harrison?
Other questions for Mr. Harrison? Representative Szymanski?
Is this budget, what is the payroll?
That's what he addressed to me.
Whoever's answer is on pay.
Actually, I'll defer to, we'll defer to the programming chair. Hillary, do you mind just talking about what a payroll is? What that's paying for?
Yes. Well, next semester, I think y'all are probably gonna get your jackets and your belts.
There's a follow.
Yes, follow.
We have to, if we're gonna get these jackets and those belts, we have to pay for them. Or they just,
The idea behind it, that was in the original budget provided by programming, and that it would supplement some of the costs in order to pay for them, but by no means would it be 100%. And this was a request of the programming committee.
Representative Smith?
I think probably the president actually knows the apparel previously, but several times over the past semester I've noted that I'm against sort of the enrichment of costs on behalf of student activity fee monies, and I think it's important that the assembly is aware that the monies that have been allocated to us have actually been taken from the student activity fee, and that we need to be very careful. The only times that we really get in trouble with the campus community is when we do types of things like buy dinners, and in this case, I'll be very wary about purchasing any kind of clothing with student activity fee.
Any other questions for Mr. Karasik? Can reserve comments for debate. If there are no other questions, then okay. Discussion on policy 10. Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to echo what Matt just said as far as apparel. In the original budget, and this is no fault of Rouse, in the original budget I had submitted to Rouse, there's a few holes in it, and basically, I just tried to kind of answer your question quickly, but that was kind of a half-truth of an answer. Originally what was involved with programming was kind of more of discretionary funding. So what Ralph did was kind of look at the overall budget of which they originally submitted, and part of that was apparel. I don't believe that there's no way $1,250 should ever go just to apparel for this organization, not with the tight funding that we have. So I asked that be stricken by somebody make that motion, or at least amended drastically.
Okay, Representative Barr?
So moved.
Okay, to strike apparel is the amendment. Yeah. On page 1 of 11 on policy 10, line 51, apparel shall be stricken. Any objections to that amendment?
I object.
Okay, anyone want to talk about their objection? Representative Malloy?
Yeah, I feel Hillary and the program committee have the best intentions with this. Once again, UPUA is still a young organization and still trying to get its name out there. Not everyone reads the Collegian, not everyone reads the articles about UPUA in the Collegian. And yes, it's great when we hit that student that's interested about expressing their concern, but as we progress and people realize that we are the place to express their concerns, having something on ourselves that says we're UPUA is very helpful. And in the past, we have had t-shirts for our events, for elections. We had these kind of things to help promote UPUA and the process. So it's not without precedent that we use money from this organization to help promote this organization via apparel. I think it's very helpful to long-term success and actual implementation of us being known to the student body. So I urge you to vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Further discussion on the amendment?
student affairs money, I asked the same question first day. But it's not paid for by student money, but you're right, I don't think we should have.
Representative Mintz?
I just wanted to say that I don't think that we should totally strike all the dollars. We should just reduce it to a monetary amount for the second.
Does everyone hear that? Said reduce the $12.50. Representative Gupta?
I was just gonna say, I didn't pull this number out of anywhere. Like, I've taken into consideration what you told me, how you want clothes, how y'all like jackets and stuff. And so, I mean, I kind of looked around and looked at how much it would be, and then got this number from there. If you don't want it, that's completely fine. But if you want apparel, then don't completely strike this. You can definitely lower the amount though. So, you know, if you strike it.
Mr. Cairns?
Yeah, and I mean, as far as that, there's no, I didn't mean to say that. Hillary obviously did a research. This was something that was asked for by the Assembly. But one of the things I do is concerned about is that we asked for kind of a basic budget. And to put apparel in without specifying whether it's for election or things like that, I have no problem with apparel, but I think just at the most, if it is for, you know, if you have t-shirts for an election, if you have t-shirts for a flag football, if you have t-shirts for a community service event you're doing, I think that's very, very necessary. But when we're dealing with a sort of a basic scaled down budget, I think we have to kind of look at everything that we spend money on. But as far as, there was a lot of work put into it, I just feel like that being the case, that should be clarified for it to just read apparel. I don't think does it justice, so.
Representative Barr?
I mean, I don't really see apparel being much different. I mean, we're spending it to promote things. I mean, what's the difference between that and flyers? Except, I mean, these are going to last longer than the flyers that come down the end of every month anyway.
Further discussion on the amendment? Representative Ockelberg?
Yes, I would just like to echo his statement by noting that the importance of promotion is under page 4 of 11, under our vision. Our first thing is promotion. In order to become a more effective and representative body, we must get our name out there as an organization and committee. A large portion of our budget is devoted to promotion because of this idea. I think apparel is one of the best ways to accomplish that.
Representative Smith?
Okay, I think you're still missing. No one seems to understand the fact that this is not student affairs money. This is student activity fee money. Whatever we spend it on, the students have given to us to use responsibly. It's not. I originally was under a misinformed impression that the money that was given to us from student affairs was from student affairs, like as is done with UPAC, which I think politically is a poor example of how, you know, we would conduct ourselves anyway. But the money that was given to us, the student activity fee money, is not a line item out of student affairs. So the only reason I'm against the apparel for ourselves is because that's not something that I would want as a student, the student government spending money on. That's not enriching me, that's enriching the organization.
Representative Wallace?
I think when you really think about it, there's about, 40 of us here, and we all pay the student activities fee. So if you kind of add up how much we pay, you know, it's a small number anyway.
Representative Barr?
It's basically like what we do, right?
Representative Barr?
I mean, the student activity fee money, I mean, the money that UPAC is doing for their shirts comes from students anyway. I mean, that's where Student Affairs gets their money, is from our tuition anyway. So I mean, either way, we're still paying for UPAC shirts. So I feel like that's kind of a poor example to say why we shouldn't do it.
Representative Quinn?
Okay, by that logic, we shouldn't be buying everyone shirts. UPAC probably shouldn't be spending their money on golf shirts. If we want to pilot them shirts really lovely, let's just buy it ourselves with our own money instead of spending students' money. Right?
Representative Lucas?
I recognize Representative Smith's concerns about this move. I think, though, if we do buy these shirts, we can use them effectively. I do believe that UPOA does need to market itself better. I believe that we as representatives should wear these the day of assembly or on particular days of the week so we can identify ourselves. Often people don't know that we are UPOA representatives or what UPOA stands for. So although I understand the concern about using students' money to fund, you know, a t-shirt for ourselves, I do think it is important that we do promote ourselves, and this is an effective way to do that.
Representative Szymanski?
Echoing what my colleague here said, I think if we are going to do this, we have to set up a day where we all wear it. I mean, there's going to be a day where maybe I just wear it, and there are 40 of us here, so one student and 32 or 35,000 students can wear one UPUA shirt. I think if we are going to do this, we have to wear them at our meetings. Everyone wear them on a Wednesday or a Thursday. But to me, other than that, if we don't do that, it's going to be every now and again you're just going to see one random person walking down the street with a UPUA shirt. So it's bad advertising.
Representative Morale.
I second what Richard said, it's not really motion, but I think that's a great idea. If we all, on Wednesdays, I used to work at Otto's and Currents, and like all the Navy people would come in there at 3:30. I knew like what they were, the Navy ROTC. And you know, everyone that saw them was saying, Navy ROTC, that's kind of cool. So why don't we all wear the, ROTC is in the hub coming in around 7:45, all of our UPUA shirts, and we all look handsome and pretty, and, we celebrate, and people clapping,
Representative Wallace.
I was just going to agree because I mean, if we wear our shirts, during a function that is benefiting students, and we all wear our shirts, instead of just being looked at as another group on campus that's gathering together with the UPUA doing stuff for students, and it just markets us much better.
Representative Loner.
Regarding the marketing comments, I have serious concern, I guess, about marketing ourselves with the apparel, because combining the two arguments of good marketing and then also using the student activity fee money as part of the marketing drive or marketing efforts. We've already, I don't know if everybody remembers or read it, but we've already gotten some bad press earlier this year about the spending last year. UPUA spending last year. And there's also, I don't want to speak, I guess, on behalf of Mr. Morrell, but there's also Secretary of State, which has criticized UPUA in the past for some things that they do, or that we do, I should say. And I feel that if we have shirts with student activity fee money, it's going to be a more noticeable waste or a more noticeable misallocation of the student activity fee money. I'm going to urge you to vote for the amendment to strike the apparel from the budget, because I think it's just, not only is it bad to allocate student activity fee money for our own uses, I think it's an extremely noticeable misallocation of money.
Representative Sanders.
I just want to echo Matt Smith and Sam Loner's comments about the fact that every time we back houses in the newspapers are spending, I want to get these jackets and then be embarrassed to wear them because that people know that their own money went to them. So I think that just a solution to this is just buy our own stuff.
Representative Karasik.
I don't think we can, first off, I don't think we can be naive enough to say that we can all afford it. And yes, personally I can, but there may be someone in this room who can't. And therefore, that's why I'm standing up and saying it. Therefore, we cannot just stand up and say, well, you can afford it, you can afford it, you can afford it. Others can't, and I think we need to recognize that. That's first off. Second of all, this time, looking at UPAC, whether you agree with what they do, whatever you feel about them, when you walk into a UPAC allocation, it does add legitimacy to the room. It really does. Because you see these people all in polo shirts with the logo on it. And the organization, people sometimes get intimidated by those shirts, but it does add a good, it does improve the organization's stature, in my opinion, which it would do for this organization, which is something that we're still striving to do. And as far as doing something just for us, the student activity fee, it basically takes $74 from all the students, which amounts to about $2.3 million undergraduate each semester, and puts it into one giant pot. Now, perhaps Matt Sheriff may not see any of that, but Mike Wallace may see $4,000 from UPAC because he goes on a trip. And that's how the student activity fee works.
it combines money into a communal pot and then gives out more than what you pay to certain people, and others don't get any from it. And that's how any tax works. And therefore, you just have to consider that an organization that goes to UPAC for travel, honestly, their travel really only affects them and impacts them. But UPAC still funds them, and no one's going to sit here and say, well, we should no longer fund travel. Unless you want to get rid of the student activity fee, which is a whole other debate, which we're not having this evening. So, thank you.
Further discussion on this amendment, Representative Knox?
Second.
Thank you.
Any objections to any debate on this amendment? Okay, show of hands, affirmative on the amendment of striking apparel on line 51 of page 1. Aye.
Wait, this is in favor?
In favor of striking. Opposed? Opposed, so you just want it to stay the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Objections? I mean abstentions? 1, 2, 3. 7, 15. Okay. Abstentions, high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, the amendment fails. 7, 15, 5. Further discussion on policy 10. Mr. Cabello.
I move to amend line 51 of page 1, apparel, and change the number from 1,250 to 800.
Question
Yeah.
or directed towards Hillary. Hillary, how will that change will it affect it in any way? And how will it affect it? Do you have any idea? Well, would we have to then go to something less?
Yeah.
Would somebody not getting it? How would it work?
Well, I mean, depending on what y'all want, so.
Did you have in mind like the elections costs and different events when you came up with that number? Like, no, election, like t-shirts or different events that we did when you came up with that number as far as coming with the power?
Okay, so discussion on, there's been an objection, so is there a second on that amendment? Any objections on the amendment?
Object.
Okay, so debate on the amendment of $800 for apparel, line 51 of page 1. Representative Knock.
I'm under the impression that Hillary came up with that number for a reason. So, I mean, really, we can change it from 1,250 to 800. Still, if we spend the money, people would be mad. It's not like we dropped it off for $100. People would be like, oh yeah, I ain't taking Google. I mean, I'm gonna spend money. Let's spend money. It's $400.
Representative Smith.
It's either we spend money or we don't. Either we pay for by ourselves or we use this money. So I don't think it's a matter of like dollar amount. It's whether we use this money or not.
Mr. Cavallo.
The reason why I made the motion is looking at the original budget. I mean, the question is what type of shirt we want. And we can provide apparel or at least subsidize some aspect of the apparel with $800. It might not be exactly what we want, but I do think that the concerns raised about spending or misspending this money are valid. I do think that promotion is very important and level of formality is important. And there are other alternatives to just shirts that the program committee is considering that don't need quite $1,250. So the question really before is not, well, if we're going to spend the money, we're going to spend the money. It's what direction we want this program committee to be put in. We want them to buy polo shirts, which are obviously the most expensive, or jackets, which are the most expensive, or by reducing the amount of $400, are we instructing them, well, maybe you're going to have to go to kind of a more formal t-shirt, or brooch, or something of that nature. And brooch or lapel. There are a couple things discussed. I know guys are going to brooches, but lapel, Point of the matter is that the reduction of money isn't, it's what direction we want to instruct the programming committee to spend this money on. In my opinion, I think we can shoot a little bit lower to still accomplish the aims of advertising and promoting the organization without being somewhat exorbitant. That's the reason the motion is made.
Representative Lucas.
I want to reflect Representative Knopf and Representative Smith's comments. I think this amendment's insignificant in that, if we're going to spend the money, we're going to spend the money. Lowering the quality of the garment is not really going to change the, perspective of the students if they're opposed to it. And I trust the programming committee for coming up with this figure, and it seems well thought out.
Representative Miller.
I guess it's more of a question for us to see post the amendment. Where is the extra funding get reallocated to if we down?
It would go into the unrestricted account or the type 40 account, and the numbers I have, $400 out of $2,800 is a significant percentage of money, so this isn't not a significant percentage of funds. So,
Representative King.
The $400 to discretionary funding for programming.
question? That would require another amendment. Right now, it's removed from the budget. The only place it can go is back into the account which it came from, so that would require an additional amendment. I think we put it discretionary. I'm looking to see if there is discretionary. There's already $1,000 discretionary for the committee. I think putting $400 is basically an accounting trick. It doesn't accomplish much, so.
Representative Wallace.
I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think that $1,250 is that exorbitant of a number. But I mean, if we're that worried about students having a problem with us purchasing these polos, maybe we shouldn't keep the polos. Maybe when Ralph puts out these little things, he puts out our polo too. And once we get here, we put it on and we wear it during the meetings, and then we put it back. So then it stays within the organization.
Representative Lombard. Any objections to ending debate? Is there an objection? Okay, would you like to?
I think there's a few people who don't want to talk.
Okay. With that objection, vote on end debate. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This is in favor of ending debate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speakers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 objections. Objections at this time. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Abstentions. 2. Motion fails. Still in debate on the amendment of $800. Representative Gupta.
I was just going to say, looking on the past history of my committee, anytime I bring anything to the floor involving money, which is every time I bring anything to the floor, people either try to strike it or reduce it. So, and every single time I'm looking into it, I'm researching it. I know what I'm doing. So, I mean, I guess my question to you is, how much do you want me to spend on anything I do? Everything my committee does, we have to spend money. So if you don't want to spend money, then we should not.
Representative Lucas.
I would agree with Representative Gupta. I mean, every time she's brought something to the floor or her subcommittees, it's been criticized and ridiculed, even though we've passed other budgets without any sort of critique. We just passed, President's dinner without looking at the figure. So I think she's researched this figure. I think an amendment to this figure is not warranted, and I would support keeping the apparel amount the way it is.
Further discussion on the amendment. Representative Barr.
Motion to end debate.
Any objections to ending debate on the amendment? Representative Quinn?
Yeah, I was just raising my hand to say something.
What's that?
I was just raising my hand to say something.
Well, you can say it since you objected.
Thank you. Okay, Hillary, I think it's really unfortunate that this seems like a personal attack because for me at least it's not. The reason why I'm opposed to spending this much on apparel, something I've noticed with UPUA in general is we feel as though we have a sense of entitlement to student funds, which really bothers me because we're student representatives, we're supposed to be leaders. There's a lot of misspending in student organizations on Penn State's campus. And I think as student leaders, we have an obligation to try to curtail that. And I mean, I know you do a lot of work, and I'm sorry, this seems personal, it's really, that's my objection, to spend this much on a crowd. I don't see it as a necessary expenditure.
Any other objections on any debate? Okay. All those in favor of any debate, show of hands, affirmative. That means you would like debate to end now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, objections to ending debate. 1. Abstentions? 1, 2. Passes 23, 1, 2. Voting on the amendment of $800 on line 51 on page 1 of policy 10. Roll call. Secretary.
Can you repeat the amendment?
Shh, I just said it.
Okay.
$800.
Okay.
Apparel, line 51 of page 1. Do we want to just do a show of hands? On the amendment? Okay. Hands up, affirmative on the amendment. That means you would like it to be $800 instead of $1,250. Affirmatives. Up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Objections? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Objection or abstentions? 1 and 2 and 3. Fails 519.3, so it's kept at 1250 on line 51. Further discussion on policy 10, Representative Barr.
Yeah, on page 10, with under Wally Palooza, why is that in the, why is it first of all, I guess, $65,000? And where, yeah, that seems like a lot. And where is that money coming from, being as we were only given like 15,000? I think we're only like 36,000 total.
Let me just say that's not that those are appendix. Listen up. Those are appendix. These are the original budgets that were submitted. And what we did is we kind of worked off of them to kind of reach basic necessity funds. So as you see now, the UPUA elections event is $2,000 down from $65,000. So a good little cut.
Okay, so that is not like any sort of
$2,000.
Representative, if you look underneath the appendix, it says that what follows the appendix were references to where the numbers were generated, but it's non-authorization to spend any money. So only the first 3 pages authorize money.
Representative Kersey, do you have a question?
I do, for Gavin. Gavin, what's going on with the ability of this organization to go to UPAC for money? Because of the beginning, when we had a disagreement with at the beginning of the year with UPAC, they said, please come to us for programming. And now, what's going on?
Okay. I will answer that. Basically, right now, in front of you is items that we have funds for. In the event that we need further funds for a specific event, or in the event that we want to do a larger programming that's not covered here, it is my understanding, as I speak with Andrew, that we can still go to UPAC. It is not double dipping. The reason that the argument was made for the Academic Council, I think is a specific example, was because they said that there was funds already allocated for that specific purpose. Since Ralph and I brought that up as one of the key topics for Academic Affairs, and that was the rationale behind that. I did not know that prior, otherwise it would have had to go through all that work to deal with UPAC. So that's that was news to me, and that's when it first came to my attention that was the problem.
So an event like Multicultural.
So an event like Waterpalooza, you bet.
Further discussion. Further discussion. Representative Szymanski.
Just had maybe just one clarification here. On page 2 of 11, under legal affairs, line 25, college completion Sudoku, question mark.
Would you like to address that to legal affairs? Okay, Mr. Chairman.
That's already been approved, that's $1,000, so.
I know, I'm just.
But that's one of the advertising mechanisms they want to use, so that's within there.
It's creative. Further discussion on policy 10. Okay, further discussion. Mr. Carvello.
I just want to point out very quickly, and I think today's wrapping up, that the document that's before you is a very rough document. That's just because we have no established procedure for budgeting large amounts of money. We're in a new structure now. I've already informed you last week, I'll be working with the IT committee to get that approved so that we can handle larger amounts of money in the future in a much more organized and professional manner. Also, the nature in which we got this money, the timing, makes it very difficult for us to hold formal hearings and stuff internally in PUA, which is definitely where we're going to be going. That's also why you see a little bit more discretionary money, just because of the late stage of this, and things are solidifying. It's very not practical to have people constantly coming to the assembly for small little events when we've already talked about them ad nauseum for various reasons. So I just want to say this isn't a standard. This is really the first comprehensive budget we've ever passed as an organization. But by no means is this kind of the standard or should be viewed, and I think the record should reflect that this is not going to be the standard moving forward for how budgets are passed, nor how it's light item. This is the best you could do in the time provided.
Secretary, did you get that in the minutes? Yeah. Further discussion on policy 10. Representative Szymanski.
Motion to end debate.
Second.
Any objections to any debate on policy 10? Okay, and with that, roll call, Secretary. Voting on policy 10.
All right, Michael Aldinger.
Yes.
William Barr.
Yes.
Jim Byrne.
Yes.
Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Ralph Carvello.
Yes.
Hillary Gupta. Yes. Mark Cannon.
Yes.
Hubert Hines. Sorry, hold on. Andrew Kersnick.
Yes.
John King.
Yes.
Peter Corey.
Yes.
Sean Leonard. Sam Loner.
Yes.
Benjamin Lombard.
Yes.
Stephen Lucas.
Yes.
Nick Mance.
Yes.
Sean Malloy.
Yes.
Samantha Miller.
Yes.
Christopher Knox.
Yes.
Ellie Opelberg. Yes. Greg Plum. Bryant Holland.
Yes.
Kelly Potter. Yes. Megan Quinn. Yes. Christian Ryland.
Yes.
Amy Sanders. Yes. Carolyn Severi. Philip Slusser.
Yes.
Richard Shermansky.
Yes.
Colleen Smith. Yes. Matthew Smith.
Yes.
Michael Smith.
Yes.
Michael Wallace.
Yes.
Policy 10 passes 2800. And moving on. Liaison reports, Graduate Student Association, Joanne Alston.
GSC rep is very tired. We had our last meeting of the semester tonight. We're all kind of winding down. It wasn't really all that noteworthy, so I'm just here to say hey.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to Arch, Andrew Coons. No, okay.
I'd like to thank you for coming out.
I would also.
You did wonderful attendance, it's really improved.
Okay. Item number 10, report by the association directors and staff. Chief of Staff, Mike Anderson. Okay. We're just going to go through each one quickly. Question if you must. Treasurer, Matt Sherroff. Any questions for Mr. Sheriff? No. Okay, Greek life, Luke Pierce, he resigned. Media, Adam Carone, absent.
Plan to replace Luke.
Plan to replace Luke. He's supposed to be working on that himself.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. Business, Lou? Yeah. So that's it.
As President Kieran's mentioned earlier in the meeting, about 2 hours ago, that I will be stepping down from my position as Director of Business. This was not an easy decision for me to make. I've grown a lot with this organization throughout the past semester, and for academic and personal reasons, I found it in my best interest to resign. If you're interested in knowing who my replacement will be, it will come from my committee. We are currently in the process, myself and Mr. Anderson, Chief of Staff, are in the process of debating upon who will be the best person to replace me. But rest assured that it will definitely be a committed individual. The majority of the members of my committee are young, so it will be someone that can grow this organization. Definitely look forward to meeting them in the springtime. I want to first begin by thanking Mike Anderson, President Kieran's, and Vice President Russell for their efforts during the interview process. It was a long process, and I really appreciate their patience and for bringing me on board. I want to thank the General Assembly for appointing me to the position, because without your votes, obviously I wouldn't be here. Oh, and thank you to the ID Council for your interview. It was awesome.
Welcome, Louis.
I want to thank the Exec Board. I really think they've done a great job. I know you guys don't get to hear about them a lot, but they're definitely a group of committed individuals. Definitely, if you have the opportunity to talk to them after the meeting, definitely get more involved with them and their interests in the springtime. They're a group of very intelligent individuals, and I think this previous semester has definitely been a testament to their dedication to this group and what they can do in the future. And last but not least, I want to thank my community members, because without them, obviously I wouldn't have the support. At this time, I would take any questions if there are.
Any quick questions? Mr. Karasek?
I think I speak for all of us, Lou, and I just want to thank you. I've known you for a year and a half now. You were my RA last year, which probably much harder task than what you faced in UPUA. Since I've known you, you've always gone through everything with 100%, and I understand why you're stepping down is that you don't feel that you can do that for this organization. So I thank you and respect that decision, and I thank you for your service to this organization.
Any other quick questions? Okay, remember this is kind of our new thing, we're going quick. Thank you, Lou. Women's Affairs, anything to say about that? Representative Lombard?
Ruth, you're working on some kind of women's initiative, I'm forgetting what it is.
Oh, the symposium?
Yeah, how's that going?
It's going really well. I have like a couple of people helping me from all these women's groups and my own committee or department, and it's going really well. We're just trying to. It's going fine. But help would actually be very appreciated. You can come to me in the end of the meeting and.
You all met today.
Yeah.
So you're moving right along. Okay, anything else regarding Women's Affairs? Representative Mance?
Not as much a question, but I just make a quick comment. I found out Women's Affairs Director's letter to the editor and the collegian was going to be very interesting.
Okay, anything else regarding Women's Affairs? Okay, moving on to Multicultural Affairs. Okay, Legislative Affairs. Ian's here, so anything about that you'd like to say? Okay, moving on to Legal Affairs. You guys have anything? Is that a no?
No, we're good. Thanks for passing the
Yeah, good job, everyone. Okay, off-campus student affairs, not here. Community service, not here. Moving on to item number 11, committee reports. Same format, starting with steering committee. Mr. Cavello is not here. Obviously, steering doesn't have a vice chair. Oh, here he is. Anything regarding steering anything pressing that you'd like to discuss at this time? Mr. Gravello?
Yeah, I just have 2 points and then I'll stand for questions. First, and Matt, I don't know if Matt talked about this, but Sean Gordon, who's an election commissioner and now is in the workforce, he donated, it was our first donation, he donated $25 to the organization. It's an interesting story that it was actually, he said, University Park Undergraduate Association, and they wrote it down as administration. They donated it to the Office of Undergraduate Education, and it wasn't until after about a month or so that they realized he meant association, not administration. So that's interesting. Also, update on ARSH. Very important. I attended ARSH meeting on Monday, and I would like to read the following motion that was adopted by ARSH in response to our resolution. And the ARSH liaison actually made this motion, although he voted against it, but we won't hold that against it. So it's moved by Emma C. and seconded by Mike S. to vote on postponement of recreational facilities fee and discuss further on exact date in the spring of implementation. The discussion will be with UPUA outside of the format of a task force. The council voted 10-3-2 to postpone the implementation of the rec room fee and discuss with UPUA any possible implementation and to further the dialogue between us outside of the task force. I asked the Executive Council what outside of the task force meant. They want all 40 of us to come to their meeting. They were very unhappy that I kind of made them stay for 40 minutes past their return time because debate ensued and I was antagonizing debate in some areas, as you can well imagine. The executive board was going to look into what that meant, whether we could meet one-on-one and in smaller groups. And it was the opinion of the executive board then that would probably be the path they would interpret it to. But as it stands now, they're not going to meet with us one-on-one until their board meets and actually agrees that's the interpretation of the motion. ARSH did deliberate for some time. They did postpone the implementation of the fee, actually on the advice of their advisor. They're going to discuss its implementation, if at all, with us. So I think it's a very positive step, and I'm very glad that the ARSH Council took that.
Any pressing questions, Representative Karasik?
Do we know whether there's a possibility that Parker would veto?
He did discuss vetoing it based on the fact that he personally feels that the task force it would be imperative, since ARSH has no formal stance on why they support it. They just have a record of supporting it. So it's very difficult for us to kind of critique or engage in any sort of dialogue or come to any sort of conclusion of any outcome without that document. So there was discussion of him potentially doing that, but he's going to review his executive board and then get back to you exactly what the language of this means.
Representative Barr?
Is there any way we can get ARSH to, request ARSH to have someone, get a new liaison that'll actually come to our meetings?
Well, actually, I think, Representative, that you pointed that out, I was the only one at ARSH meeting on Monday. In the ARSH record, there are 6 on campus, or 5 right now, for a while we kind of had 4. But as a reminder, all on-campus representatives are required, as part of their attendance, they do not attend this is a violation of our attendance policy, to go to the ARSH meeting, or send an excuse to Parker, the secretary, if you cannot go. Likewise, all academic reps, via our Constitution, are required to go to their council meeting. Off-campus reps are also required to go to the borough council meeting. Failure to miss any one of those counts as if you didn't even show up to this meeting. And unfortunately, we don't have a very accurate way of attendance for borough council, so it was just Monday, to my knowledge. We're all required as representatives to be in touch with our constituents and with big issues affecting our constituents. And so if I was an on-campus representative, I would certainly be at ARSH meetings to discuss pertinent on-campus information. If I was an off-campus rep, I would certainly be at the borough council meeting of whatever borough you're a part of, because that's incredibly important. Just like as an engineering rep, I am an officer of my council. I attend their meetings and committees and all functions of their and do most academic reps. So urge you to remember that this meeting is just the beginning of your duty. It's really a disservice. And at ARSH, I was grilled about why more UPA reps were not attending their meetings because of that. And I pointed out their liaison. I said it wasn't required last year, and reps have sent excuses to us for not being able to attend for illness and other reasons. But it is a disservice when we can't even have one of 4 people go. So I just wanted to say I took a lot of heat from that on behalf of the assembly.
Representative Knock?
Point of clarification, I thought that on-campus representatives were supposed to specify a number of
That's what we did in the beginning.
And I know, we signed up for rotation of 2, but their absences have been, everyone has missed one of the meetings and they were signed up for according to their sheet. And that's not saying that on campus. I'm 100% sure that the borough council meeting was not, wasn't full of UPA representatives either. But I'm just saying that I was grilled that why should ours listen to us if we can't present individuals to them. And it was a very valid point. I wanted to throw that out, not as criticism, but as a reminder to all representatives of their duties.
Anything else pertaining to steering? Okay, moving on to internal development. Any pressing issues?
The police passes on to anyone you know that would be interested. The elections commission application, the deadline has been extended to January 14th, 2009. That's the Wednesday we get back from break. We have 2 in already. The ID will then be contacting everyone to conduct interviews. So please let anyone you know. We will be sending out an email with that and changing the dates online. Do you want me to touch on SAFB with the time that we have? Yes or no?
Go for it.
Okay. Very quickly, SAFB, with the proposal that we put forth to basically merge the organization of UPUA and UPAC, we compromised to what we had gone in there originally with, which was for a percentage allocation. I don't think that has ever been more apparent than tonight, and I think very much agree with me, in that we sit here time and time again debating small sums of money, which is not what this organization should be spending its time doing. Whether it means that we get out of here earlier, whether we're doing important things for this organization, this percentage is necessary. So what's going to happen is if it's past Friday, the proposal says that come the February meeting, the SAFB is going to vote on a percentage allocation to UPUA and GSA based on a justification document that we submit. That percentage will remain in perpetuity. So theoretically, Gavin will submit a document that says we need 5% for these reasons. They will vote 5%, and then that 5% will remain in perpetuity. Therefore, we will get 5% of the student activity fee each year. So that's what we're looking at Friday. I would urge everyone to come out at 3:30 at the 404 Old Main to give feedback and support UPUA's mission in that.
Anything else pertaining to internal development? Representative Miller?
How does internal development plan on advertising the opening of the election?
That actually falls, yeah.
Well, the deadline was decided to be extended tonight, but as of today also there's been a mailing put in every mailbox for the old deadline, which was this Wednesday. But so hopefully next Wednesday. So hopefully we should get an influx of applications the next week. So we made about there's 2,600 some mailboxes on campus, divided by there's 7,000 some mailboxes on campus. We have one for every mailbox on campus. That includes every commons or any living option that might be considered on campus.
Other questions pertaining to internal development? Okay, moving on to programming. Anything pressing on programming? Anyone else have any questions for programming? Representative Lucas? Sure.
Thank you, Hillary. We're going to miss you next week.
Anything else about programming? Representative Knox?
What's the status of the flag football team?
Yes, thank you.
So far, I believe there are 2 teams signed up, and we really need more. So please advertise. I know Sean sent out an email asking people to flyer. Did anyone flyer? So that
Are we still going through with it?
John Peterburg?
They've done way too much to not go through with it. So
But are we still going through with it on the same?
yes. So please advertise.
Representative Corey?
I would just like to say that Sean, myself, and other members of the committee are considering a postponement of the event. Hillary, I don't know if he's deliberated with you about this. Do you have any opinions on the this recommendation or any comments on that?
I mean, it looks like we might need to, but at the same time, I just feel like we get closer to the finals.
Motion to extend time by 5 minutes.
Sure, just do it. Any objections to extending by 5 minutes for programming discussions? Okay.
Well, no.
Oh, for all committee discussions. Okay. Anything else pertaining to programming? Moving on to facilities. Anyone pressing issues, Representative Nance?
I just want to make a comment / apology. I also think that, I know we're on the that comment on-campus representatives sounding good at Arch meetings. I think that someone from my committee should try to go to all the Arch meetings, at least while we're dealing with consulting with the task force and try to get that in place. If you look on here, we have a couple other kind of small campus issues relating to facilities that have come up. And also wanted to say goodbye to Representative from our committee, Will Bard, will be going abroad as well. And kind of for the reasons that Gavin pointed out in his president's report, I want to charge my committee a little break, just to kind of, I guess, keep their brains warm with nothing else, to kind of think of at least like 2 or 3 new ideas. Gavin kind of outlined
Anything else about facilities or questions for Mr. Mance? Representative Coy?
I guess it's kind of a comment to this under the you're letting me talk about the Beaver Hall.
Yeah, the blighting.
If any of you know anyone who lives in Beaver Hall that has a disability or is affected by them plating the disabled buttons to get into the building, please let myself or Nick know, and I'll be appreciated.
Because recently, if you look on my report, what has happened is they plated over lots of the handicap access buttons and little buttons that you push. You see on basically any other campus building, push automatically open doors for people who are handicapped or on crutches somehow. So Peter also contacted Diane Andrews, the senior director of Residence Life, and she is forwarding that to one of the directors of Paula Calls of some sort. So I'm trying to move forward on that, seeing why they did that in the first place.
Okay, anything else regarding facilities? Weird and unfortunate. Facilities, Representative Garrison? Okay, thank you. Academic affairs, anything pressing with academic affairs? Any questions about academic affairs? Okay, governmental affairs?
Just a cruising day member, thank you to Jim.
I would need help for Mr. Barney there, so. Okay. Anything else regarding governmental affairs? Questions, comments? Okay, moving on to diversity and campus life.
Quick update. This week's committee meeting was canceled for the quick end of the semester. A lot of us working on our own projects. And in light of the fact that I think the Assembly's done a great job this semester, I just want to congratulate everyone on the job well done. There's still a lot of work to be done, of course, but you guys did a great job.
I'll second that. Any other questions regarding diversity and campus life? Okay, moving on to item number 12, the comments for the good of the order. Representative Karasik. Mr. Gravello.
I don't clap for individually, but everyone who's going abroad or not going to be with us next semester, could you stand up so we can give you a round of applause? Also, just remind you that next week is work session, so if your committee is meeting or whatever it should be, unless you have meetings scheduled doubled up this week or something like that. So just, we're not off yet. We still have a number of representatives and still a lot of work to do. So just keep that in mind too. Maybe plan on what you can do over the break to better the organization.
Representative Karasik.
I want to wish everyone very happy holidays. Enjoy your finals, which is not usually possible, but try anyways. Enjoy your rest of the time here. Very quickly, we've accomplished in a in my opinion, an immeasurable amount this semester. And I think that everyone here would hopefully agree. We've done a great job, all of us have. I'm certainly going to miss those that are leaving us. Hopefully we'll play simply, be worthy people. And I think we really need to move forward knowing that we're in a very good place. I don't think any of us thought we would be in this place where the legitimacy of this organization on campus is 10 times what it used to be. Our funding has the potential to grow, and I don't think anybody thought we would be there at the beginning of this semester, let alone when we all were elected last semester. So I congratulate everyone.
Further comments from Representative Landlord?
I just want to remind you that the UPUA will be having its academic council conference this coming Wednesday from 6:30 to 8, and that's for all the different academic student councils on campus. So if you're involved with your academic student council, please remind your president or executive board that we're having that, and to RSVP if they haven't already. That would really help me out. Okay, thanks a lot.
Representative Shermansky?
Okay, going on what Andrew said, I just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas. Me personally, I'm looking forward to seeing again my three spirits. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the big thing I want to stress is everybody, January 1st, 4:30, Rose Bowl, watch. We're bringing home the Rose Bowl trophy this year, all right?
Other comments? Representative Malloy?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone to utilize, I know all of you are in other groups, but utilize your group's listservs and meetings to announce not only the flag football tournament, but also all the positions that we have open for commissioners and for at-large representatives and exec board positions and the LGBT director, which is constitutionally prescribed and is still not filled. I feel that we should definitely have that filled for next semester. So please be on the lookout for all of those and help promote them. Thank you.
Further comments? More comments? Other comments? Okay, moving on. Roll call. Secretary.
Holdinger. Mike Anderson. William Barr.
You guys, come on.
Ruth Garagna. Ralph Carvello. Sarah Donnenberg. Adam Perone. Pat Gordon. Hillary Gupta. Here. Mark Cannon. Nicholas Hine. Hubert Hine. Andrew Hairset.
Here.
Gavin Kieran. John King. Peter Corey. Andrew Coots. Matthew Lawson. Sean Leonard. Daniel Lerch. Sam Lohner. Benjamin Lombard. Stephen Lucas. Nick Mann. Sean Malloy. Samantha Miller. Christopher Morrell. Jacob Munn. Christopher Knob. Ellie Oakberg. Joey Olson. Luis Orazio. Luke Pierce. Greg Clem. Bryant Pullen. Kelly Potter. Megan Quinn. Christian Ragland. Valerie Russell.
Present.
Amy Sanders. Carolyn Severi. Matt Sheroff. Bill Slusser. Richard Shermansky. Colleen Smith. Matthew Smith. Michael Smith. Ricardo Torres. Ian Vickery. Michael Wallace. Cindy Wong. Nicole Zinni.
And with that, this meeting stands in recess until January 14th, 2009.